Ink Ribbon.
Welcome back to the series where we take a closer look at some of our favorite characters, with today's video focusing on the rugged plumber from Resident Evil Outbreak. I had to dig deep for this video, but I'm so glad I did because I learned a few things about his playstyle that literally change how I will play the game in the future, so I hope you guys are as excited for this one as I am. From being manly to making bombs, here are 25 facts about David King. David is the first Resident Evil character to ever combine items to craft weapons. David King is also the name of a character in Dead by Daylight that was introduced in a DLC pack, but this is purely coincidental. David's special inventory item is his tool belt, which consists of a folding knife, vinyl tape, junk parts, and 12 monkey wrenches. Once the items in his tool belt have been used up, there is no replenishing them for the rest of the scenario. David's special ability is throwing the wrenches from his tool belt, which are useful for knocking down zombies in one hit and stunning them, but they can also be used strategically against certain bosses like the Lion, Thanatos, and the giant flea Gigabyte, since it does an extra 200% damage to them on top of stunning them. It's also worth noting that using these counts as a weapon and will not grant the no weapon bonus at the end of the scenario. David is a fan of blades, having a bit of expertise in them, which allows him to do some unique combos with any type of knife, including the small folding knife he starts with. He can do a 3-swing combo, and a 4th swing was added in File 2, but it's pretty hard to pull off. Additionally, when slashing downward, he can initiate a stab. It's also worth mentioning that for some reason, if you use the folding knife against the Tyrant in Decisions, it has a 5 times damage multiplier. Some enemies, like hunters, can damage your character's guns, permanently breaking them and making them unusable. David is the only character who can repair them, which he does by using the junk parts in his tool belt. However, he can only repair weapons 3 times per scenario. In File 2's last scenario, he can use them to convert a model of a grenade launcher into a working one. Among the craftable weapons David can make are a hammer, a spear, a flame spray, and a stun rod. As an AI character, if David has all the necessary items to craft a weapon, he will automatically do so. The flame spray is made by combining pesticide spray and a lighter. It's also very effective against the scissor tails in the Outbreak scenario. On top of this, it's able to set multiple zombies on fire at once. In File 1, when the spray is empty, it will remain in the inventory and be useless, but in File 2, it's automatically discarded, leaving just the lighter in your inventory. The stun rod is made by combining an iron pipe and a battery, and will last somewhere between 5 and 15 hits, depending on the character you're playing as. It's a slow weapon, but extremely useful against lickers, hunters, and the suspended boss in the Hellfire scenario. The spear can be made one of 2 ways, either combining a butcher knife and a wooden pole, or a butcher knife and a long pole, and is a long-range stabbing weapon that lasts 10 hits. The spear does extra damage to both regular lions and the lion boss, the suspended boss, and the giant leech boss. Lastly is the hammer, made by combining an iron pipe and a concrete piece. While it seems like it would be the strongest of David's weapons, it's actually slower and weaker than the stun rod. If you equip Mark with it, he can do major damage if he uses his special swing ability though. In the description for the SP item, Steel Chain, you find out that David was a delinquent youth and had been in handcuffs before. David has 2 unlockable costumes, obtained after collecting the required SP items. First is his club scene costume, consisting of a leather suit, white undershirt, and a pendant, and his real survivor costume, where he lets his hair down and wears suede pants and not much else. David is the only character in Outbreak to fire a handgun with one hand, having a very thug stance with it, similar to Leon's stance in Resident Evil 2 when he's wearing his alternate costumes. One of the lesser known weapons that only David can make is the timer bomb, and all you need is a battery. Once combined with the spare parts in his toolbox, you'll have to use the lighter to activate it, and after a few seconds, it will explode. It's also worth mentioning there's a glitch if you're playing offline where you don't need the lighter. If you give it to an AI character and tell them to use it, they'll activate it without one. Timer bombs deal around 2,000 damage and are one of the most powerful weapons in the game and are worth using if you're playing as David. Around some levels, you'll find some hatches that are really easy to miss, but David is the only character that has the ability to open them. As far as I could find, these seem to only be in File 2 scenarios and very, very rare. David actually gets an opportunity to use his plumbing skills to repair a pipe. In the underbelly scenario, David can skip a large section of gameplay by fixing a pipe with all 9 pieces of vinyl tape in his inventory. David seems to pride himself in being masculine, as evidenced by many of his SP items, most of which are either some type of tool or some type of accessory that has a design modeled after an exotic animal. He also seems to have a dislike for anything that is overly ornate or impractical, only praising things that he finds sturdy and well made. He also finds several books related to survival, but he almost always dismisses them for having obvious advice. David has a decent virus infection rate, raising by 1.04% per minute and taking about an hour and 36 minutes to reach 100% infection. David is voiced by Bob Pappenbrook, who was a prolific voice actor who was in everything from Scooby-Doo to Power Rangers to basically almost any major anime you can think of. Sadly, he passed away in 2006, 2 years after Outbreak File 2 was released. David is a canon character in the File 2 scenario End of the Road, though it's never explained why he was there. In the opening cutscene, he saves Linda by beating a zombie to death with a pipe before extending a friendly handshake. If he's not in your team, he will appear later on in the scenario as a zombie. Carter. Just like the other characters, David has predetermined relationships established. Among the 2 characters he has a good relationship with are Yoko and Mark, but he doesn't get along with Cindy. If you have any theories on why Cindy and David don't get along, feel free to leave them in the comments. In Outbreak File 1, if you get to the end of the last scenario with a certain partner alive and do not take the daylight or have one in your inventory, you will be treated to a secret pair ending. For David, his pair ending is with Mark, and they decide to stay in Raccoon City. David repairs the tank, and combined with Mark's military experience, they unleash everything they've got on the approaching horde right as the bombs hit the city.
I'll finish this.
And that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and am I the only one who didn't know about the timer bombs or the rapid knife slashes? It's so crazy how much these older games still have to uncover, but anyway, I'll end it here, and if you enjoyed this, then please angrily throw a wrench at that like button. Be sure to check out my other facts videos just like this one, and I'll see you all in the next video. I'm Kai Morgan, and as always, thanks for watching Ink Ribbon. And a very special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters and YouTube members. Your extra support means the world to me and helps me keep making content for you guys.